Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, and I got another review for you. Before I get into it, let's go ahead and hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe, get that out of the way. Um, so, from Hero Tomorrow Comics, this is Bloom number 3, written by Ted Sikora and art by Butch Mapa. Um, I have thoughts going into it after reading it. I love this book. First off, I'm the more I read from Ted, the more I love. I love Mappa's art in this book. But by the time I got to the end, I kind of maybe had forgot some things reading the book. Um, so let's get into it. So we are. Woodstock is still going on in the background. It's kind of, he's kind of setting up and reminding us that we are still set in the 60s. This would be like, I think when this starts out, we're on day 3 of Woodstock, where the story is going on. And again, this is in Cleveland, Ohio, that, Ted Sikora has set up his Ohio verse or Cleveland verse or whatever you want to call it, where several of these comics connect in a connecting universe. Specifically, Tap Dance Killer, Punchline and the Vaudevillains, and the last one is Alma. I always have. I don't know if I'm ever pronouncing that one right. I have reviewed Bloom 1 and 2, and I've also reviewed Punchline. If you have not, checked those out, I have those reviews here for you. So let's get back to it. We're in Woodstock. They're setting up the time and everything. So we are with Ramsey and Regina in her Lilith form, but it's just really Regina. And the backstory is Ramsey is a writer, and he's doing a comic book, and he was creating a villain. He had hired this kind of actress performer to go out into the woods and do a photo shoot with all the markings and painting on her, the way that he had created the villain, in the comic book. Once they started doing the shoot and put the symbols on her, she kind of literally became like maybe the person she was always supposed to be, but she's basically Regina with powers now. I would say they're more like, nature involved. So, besides that, it's just Ramsey and her, and they're kind of, like on this trip during the forest. They're supposed to be leaving the forest, but, it's kind of, in both regards, just, they don't, she does, I don't think Ramsey really does, and it gets to that point a couple different times. In the last issue, she had kissed Ramsey, with not really a poison, but maybe like a light poison mixed with some other stuff, but it kind of gave him a hallucinogenic trip. He is waking up after that trip and kind of disoriented, asking how long he's been tripped out. And she tells him maybe like 30, 45 minutes, and he's like, oh my God, it's getting dark outside, how long have we been out here? And then he starts talking about his wife. They are, he's still trying to convince her to leave, the forest. He wants, he's done with the situation, and she just keeps getting weirder to, on his, from the way he sees it, he's like, man, what the heck is going on? At first she was cool and everything, and then we started doing the shoot, and she just, she went in a total different direction. Not only is she in full on character where she really believes she is Lilith, but at the same time, like, she doesn't drop any of it. She really does believe this villain. She goes more into the questioning of the hero and the villain here. Who is the hero that I'm supposed to be after? What's my backstory on the villain type stuff? He kind of doesn't really give her any answers, and I want to assume it's the more information he's given her so far, it hasn't turned out to be so good. It never really states that, but you know, I kind of would have to assume that's Ramsey's thinking. Um, she kind of, you know, puts him on blast because in the, you know, at the very end of the, I think the first issue, they had slept together while intoxicated on some stuff, but you know, she is kind of bringing that back up, like, hey, if you don't follow me and do this, you know, I'm gonna tell you, you know, your fiance, you know, and he's like, you know, at first he's kind of letting, you know, her hold that over her head, you know, just listen to her threats, and eventually he kind of stands up for his, you know, himself, and he's like, no, you know, I'm gonna tell her myself, I'll be honest, you know, I'll take the rap, and whatever happens, happens, you know, and he tries, like, he's like, you know, I'm just gonna go off on my own, and you go that way, and that's it, you know, and as he's walking away, it looks like she kind of uses her nature powers and kind of gets one of the like like tree branches to kind of stab him in the foot. So now he's injured. We go back to his fiance, and she's making it back home after going out with her friends, and she's brought home pizza. She's calling out for Ramsey, and he's not really answering, of course, because he's out with Regina, and you know, she's really kind of worried about where he is because he hasn't really done this before. We do get back to Regina and Ramsey, and they have incidentally found some house in the middle of the woods. It is all locked up at first, you know, sign, but they do manage to find a window that is open. Ramsey makes it inside, opens it up. They spend quite a bit of time here. You know, both kind of in their own direction. She kind of goes around the house and is tripping out on all the stuff that was left, eating crackers, you know, really stale crackers, and he's kind of like just lost in thought, you know, and he's really thinking about his fiance and what she's thinking about. He's worried about the real world, you know, and Regina's, she's in that character and being her, you know, and he hasn't really realized this. She kind of pointed that out a couple times about the, you know, that she's supposed to be a villain, and she is the way she is because, you know, he created her, you know, he is the comic book, you know, writer and artist. We get back with the fiance, and I'm not mentioning her name because I am bad with names, for those of you who don't know, and I don't want to make up a name, so we're just, fiance it is. So we're catching up with the fiance, and she's kind of like looking for clues in Ramsey's stuff, and she kind of looks over at the mannequin, and as you can see, like as she's looking at the mannequin right here, all of a sudden magically, like Regina's face, you know, pops up on the mannequin, and it really scares the fiance, to the point where she kind of reaches out. We jump back to Ramsey, and he's kind of stuck, you know, and thinking about, you know, his fiance and what's going on, and you know what he should do. During his little contemplation, you know, Regina, you know, says that it was a perfect time for a midnight stroll, and he's like, nah, I'm just gonna sit here and chill, and she kind of mentions that she wasn't, you know, asking him to go, she was kind of just stating it, and she does go out on this midnight stroll. When she does, she started to notice the symbols on her body come off like magically, and they start like floating around and with lights and stuff like that. In one moment they all do disappear, and she does try to follow them. She keeps mentioning that she's having this like deja vu effect, and I think what it is like memories, and you know, from his comic book writing is flooding into her, like maybe the knowledge of the hero or the knowledge of the villain she's supposed to be that he wrote down on paper. She's already mentioned a couple different times that it's happened, like, you know, in real life it might have happened like once a year, and now that, you know, she put the symbols on, it's happened like 5 or 6 times a day. And as she's going through the forest and with the you know, symbols popping up, it does happen here again in a big giant way. She ends up like making it over to this tree that's kind of calling to her, and for some reason it's, you know, it's telling her that it's an old friend and this and that, and it does want her to touch the tree, and eventually she does, and they show you right here that it looks like she's just connected with this massive amount of energy from the tree into her. we go back, and it seems like Ramsey finally like passed out in the middle of the night, and he's woken up by Regina, and Regina starts telling him the story about the tree and how, like the tree knew it was really like a time traveler kind of thing. It's like it had been waiting for them to show up at that precise moment, but it had been waiting for like 200 years or something like that. And she goes into talking about the life of a tree and how like 200 years for us is really long, but for a tree it'd be like that, like one, you know, something like one day of ours would be like a whole month of theirs, or and she goes into like great exaggeration, trying to like, I think more along the lines display that she is connected with nature on a different level that she's never been able to do before. We do get back with the fiance, and she is finally taking measures, and she's talking to a friendly police officer that she knows on like maybe a friend basis, and just asking her questions about Ramsey. Hey, has he ever done this? Have you checked in with this and that? She's like, do I need to file a missing person? That kind of stuff. Regina does lead Ramsey away from the house, and tells her he wants to show him something, and at the same time Ramsey's kind of following her and talking about the whole story about the tree, about how he doesn't believe it and this and that, and then he kind of and she keeps berating him, because she's calling him a liar, a cheat, that kind of thing, because he did sleep with her, but she knows stuff about him that she's not supposed to know. I believe it's because of the whole, like writing flooding into her, the extra knowledge that she's gaining from being this character. She knows like, his full name, his fiance's name, like the cheating that she keeps talking about she isn't even referencing them sleeping together. She's referencing a time that he did truly cheat on his fiance, like a couple years ago, and somehow she knows about this, and he has picked up on it and is kind of worried about it. At the very end, they do show that they make it to this clearing, and she has a radio, and they put this radio on. And it's said that they sit there for a long time, and Ramsey is kind of happy because the longest time they've been together, and she has been quiet. But she is like frozen, and she's like basically waiting for a song to come on. It gets to the point where like all these commercials and talk show, radio guys are talking, and she gets mad, and she's like, come on, play a song. And when she does that, she kind of casts a spell, because you can see in the bubbles right here that the guy was talking, and as soon as she says, and gets mad and says play the song, he's in real fashion, he's over in the studio like, kind of like she pulled a Darth Vader choke mode, and we do see that another DJ has to come in and take over for the other DJ, and he just puts a song on finally. With that song, we do see what she was waiting for, and she, with perfect synchronization with the nature and the song and everything around her, she does this weird little like song and dance, and not really, but I'm just calling it that, but she does a ritual, and she ends up like eating the dirt, and then all of a sudden she's like flying in front of Ramsey, and Ramsey can't believe his eyes. He's kind of seen little hints of the magic she has, but that's kind of, this is the most he has seen yet. When you get to this point in reading everything, it kind of led me into a different situation that I've mentioned before about forgetting that Regina was a villain and he is with her by himself. It's already gotten to the point where Regina's already hurt him. I kind of have a feeling that Mr. Ramsey might not have the best of endings going forward. I have a theory that Regina might be the end of Ramsey, and especially if you think about it in a metaphysical way, right? Like the character would, want to make sure that she couldn't be written out, kind of thing. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, and there's a lot of different ways it could go. So I can tell you, I'm very interested. I am saddened to find out that this is only a 4-issue series, and the 4th issue will be coming out in December. It will also be featuring a Spider-Man homage cover, which is it is Ted Sikora's Spirit comic. A Spirit comic is you find out like it is the issue of a comic that was released the year and month of your birth is your Spirit comic. I think mine is The Dark Knight Returns, if I'm not mistaken, Frank Miller. I don't know. Hey, but hey, that's my review on Bloom number 3. I am excitedly looking forward to issue number 4. It has been an amazing read, and I'm not just blowing smoke up, But that's my review. I will be back in a little bit with a couple more reviews. All right, guys. Bye.